never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever.
Hey team, this topic is, I get a lot of comments from subscribers who say that Maffetone training doesn't work. And in some cases, if all you're doing is running at the high limit of your aerobic threshold, which the math method basically states, Dr. Maffetone basically states that you basically take 180 minus your age, and that will give you what you need to be running at the highest limit of your aerobic threshold. That's the point where lactic acid just starts to build up, but it's still so small, it's such a small amount that you can optimally clear it faster than it's building up. So we can run very easy for long periods of time because, again, the lactic acid buildup is not so high that it's not shutting down muscle functioning. But for a lot of athletes, Maffetone training doesn't work. And I think the reason is that there are some athletes out there that work very well with high volume and just easy mileage and get very good results by doing that. So the Maffetone training method definitely does work for some athletes, but Maffetone training doesn't work for every athlete. And it really just depends on if you're trying to break a sub 2:30 marathon, or you're trying to break maybe an hour and 10 minutes for the half marathon, or trying to break like 34 minutes for 10K. Much more is required out of these types of athletes that are trying to run those specific times. You have to run a higher percentage of your weekly volume at a higher percentage of your heart rate with higher lactic acid buildup, so that, again, you're improving your lactate tolerance, your ability to clear lactic acid more effectively as you're running at faster paces. And so Maffetone training doesn't work for a lot of athletes because, again, they're trying to run extremely fast. And if they're running too much of their mileage too aerobically, it's just going to make them a very strong, long, slow distance runner. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, every athlete has different goals. Some athletes are just trying to go out there and run their first 5K or 10K. And if it's just more for fun and it's more just to enjoy the sport and just to get out and run the distance, then I think Maffetone training does have its place, because you still have to build your endurance. You still have to learn to run slow enough, and in this case, running at your aerobic threshold. Again, the point where lactic acid just starts to build up, but it's still so low that you don't, you have plenty of oxygen, and your ability to run at those paces for long periods of time is not a problem. It's when we're running at our lactate threshold, i.e. your anaerobic threshold, or also known as the ventilatory threshold. That's the point where you're running at a significantly higher amount of lactic acid buildup, to the point where it becomes a labor. It becomes very stressful to be able to handle the paces you throw at yourself, and lactic acid buildup is much higher. Much more oxygen is required. So again, we struggle with running at our anaerobic threshold. But Maffetone training, the reason I think a lot of athletes are saying that Maffetone training doesn't work is again, they're just running too much of their weekly volume too aerobically, and they're trying to run a specific pace, and they're having issues throughout the race holding that specific race pace. And a lot of times it's not that they're not capable, it's just they're running maybe 10 to 15% of their weekly volume at goal marathon race pace or goal 10K race pace, and then a much higher percentage of their weekly volume is spent running at their aerobic threshold or below their aerobic or above their aerobic threshold. So the problem isn't really that they don't have the capability, it's just how they're strategizing, how they're setting up their training. And sometimes it's just some minor tweaks you need to make. I always talk about running faster long runs, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you follow that faster long run with an easy, relaxed long run. Build your endurance. Those faster, varied pace long runs where you're running, you're not just running long, slow, and easy every weekend. That's going to make you much stronger. Doing speed workouts, doing hill repetitions, doing fartlek workouts, doing those types of, like saying 10 times 2 minutes hard followed by 1 minute easy. Those types of workouts where you're learning to increase paces, slow down, increase paces, slow down. And really, it's sort of like when you're in a race and you have athletes throwing surges at you, and you're reacting those surges that your competition is throwing at you. That's where fartlek training really comes into play and really is helpful, where you can react and you can make those changes because you've practiced it so often in training that once you get to the race, anything your competition throws at you, you really have done it in training. I always say make training the most difficult part of your preparation. Don't wait until the race to really find out what you can. Of course, you want to get great results in the race, but also make the race more of an enjoyable time. Because again, you've challenged yourself to the point of mental and physiological breakdown in training, that anything in the race itself, that's the day really you want to be as relaxed as you can, most as prepared as you can leading into your goal race. And again, doing a higher percentage of your training at closer to your anaerobic threshold and also at VO2 max level, coupled with making sure you're jogging on your recovery days. And I'm saying, you really just need to, on recovery days, you should just focus on feel and take the watch off. You don't necessarily need to be focusing on what pace per mile or pace per kilometer you're running on your easy days. Those days are recovery for a reason, okay? Because when it comes to your speed workouts, when it comes to your hill training, your fartlek sessions, doing these faster long runs where you're running portions of your long runs at your goal 10K, goal half marathon, goal marathon race pace, those are the days that are going to challenge you both mentally as well as physically. So you want to make sure you're backing off, slow down on recovery days and take it easy. But if Maffetone training isn't working for you, then reevaluate what you're aiming to do. Okay. If you're trying, like I said, if you're trying to run a fast time, and for some of you, it may be like running a 4:30 marathon, maybe it's running an hour for a 10K, whatever your goal is, look at how you're setting up your training and what percentage of your weekly volume are you really training at or below your goal race pace, so that you're preparing properly for the race, you're doing a proper taper. Look at your volume too. If you're training for a marathon and you're running 15 miles a week, maybe that's not really enough for you. Maybe you need to build more volume up, and then also look at how you're setting up your training throughout the week. Are you trying to get ready to earn a Boston Marathon qualifying time in 8 weeks versus a 20 to 24 week plan of action? Okay, a longer buildup is also always going to set you up for success better than a short, quick rush to get in great shape build up, like a 8 to 12 week build up. Again, it just depends on the athlete and how you're setting up your training. Maffetone training, I do think, does have its place. As I mentioned before, if you're running easy on your recovery days, it's about right. Like for me at 47, I turned 48 today, August 29th. So for me, it's running at 132 beats per minute, 180 minus 48. So when I'm out running at 132 beats, it's slow, but it's meant to be slow. Okay, again, you can only push the body hard, physiologically hard, so often before you start to see significant diminished returns on your investment. So you want to make sure that you're training smart. There's plenty of you out there, 99 to 100% of you already know how to work hard. Okay, I touched on this on a community tab post the other day. Plenty of athletes know how to work hard, but it's really about working smart. The more mature you get in the sport, and going after what you want to do. Again, the hardest working athletes don't always get the best results. Sometimes it's about working smarter. Okay, if it's 100 degrees out, 100 degrees Fahrenheit out, and you're trying to do a tempo run, and you're trying to hit a specific pace, there are some times that you can get indoors, jump on a treadmill, and do a proper tempo run or anaerobic threshold run on a treadmill. There's no shame in that. But do also still do some tempos out in that 100-degree heat. Just significantly adjust your paces that you were aiming for. If it was like you're planning on doing a 5 or 6 mile tempo run and it's 100 degrees out, and your pace was, again, aiming for 6 minute mile pace, you need to maybe think about running around 6:30 mile pace or 6:40 mile pace for your tempo run versus that 6 minute pace. Okay, if you go indoors, of course, it's going to be much easier for you. Don't get in the habit of just continually running on the treadmill 24 hours every single day. You do want to get out there and experience the the environment. But it's about working smart. Okay, if it's 10 degrees below zero and it's nothing but ice outside on the roads, indoors, get it. If you got an indoor track, do some workouts on the indoor track. If you got a treadmill, if you access to a gym, definitely it's a smarter move rather than going out there where you're simply not going to be able to sustain your pace. You're probably not even going to be able to run because it's nothing but ice outside. Again, it's about working smart. So, but that's some of the things I want you thinking about in terms of if Maffetone training isn't working for you, then make sure that you're looking at how you're setting up your training, and don't spend too much of your weekly volume running too easily. Okay, it's still very important to run easy, but if you're running 5 to 10% of your weekly volume aerobically, and only or anaerobically, and 90% is aerobically, look at maybe that could be a reason why you're not getting the results you want. Okay, so I hope this video on the answering the question of Maffetone training isn't working. If that's you, then definitely consider some of the things I've talked about in this video. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. If you have any other questions, or if there's something I didn't cover specifically in this video, feel free to leave me a comment below. Let me know what's on your mind, and also what you think about the Maffetone training method. I'd like to hear about that as well. If you're trying to take your training and racing to the next level, definitely check out the resources below these videos, as well as on RunDreamAchieve.com. And I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.